Here's a story I don't know if you've seen. This story was published, it says Sunday, August 11th, 2024. And the title of the story is U.S. Families Are Woefully Unprepared for the Great Wealth Transfer. It says the greatest intergenerational wealth transfer in history is underway, and people are unprepared, according to Michael Pelzar, head of investments at Bank of America Private Bank. Nearly half of wealthy families don't have the most basic elements of estate planning in place, Pelzar said. What that means is that families are woefully unprepared for that wealth transfer that'll be taking place. Baby boomers alone are projected to pass down over 68 trillion over the coming years. However, Pelzar explained that nearly half of wealthy families do not have the necessary preparations in place, such as a will, power of attorney, or healthcare proxy to allow for easy inheritance. You know, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to read this without going off on a tangent. I'm trying to read as much as I can without going on a tangent. And the reason why I laugh at that part about like having a healthcare proxy, as you've heard me say this before, if you pay close attention to the news, you will see that there's more and more incidents of matricide and patricide. That means killing of the mother, killing of the father. And as far as I believe, I think it's going to get worse. You're dealing with an entire generation. You got Generation Z. I think the millennials aren't as bad, but you've got Generation Z followed by Generation Alpha. You got you got two generations of these kids. I'll just call them kids who are never going to own anything because they can't afford anything. They have been poorly educated. They have been miseducated. They are lazy. They can't even do basics. This is, it's funny. The U.S. government always, we gotta let immigrants in because we have so many jobs that Americans just don't want to do. Here's my question. If working a job or starving to death is your option, I would think that most people would work the job. But they justify immigration by saying, we've got so many jobs that American kids refuse to do. To which I respond, it's like, what do you mean refuse to do? Either you go to work or you be broke. We're not giving you any welfare checks. We're not giving you any credit cards because you obviously can't use those. Right now, I think America's, what is it, we're damn near $2 trillion in credit card debt. I think they said it was like 1.4 last time I checked. I don't understand this. It's not an option. You have to work. Believe me, I don't want to work. If it was up to me, I wouldn't show up to work ever again. But it doesn't work that way. I think the Bible itself says if a man don't work, a man don't eat. Well, that applies to women and it applies to children too. Do you realize I just came back from a country where they got the kids working? It's like you have parents making stuff to sell and you have kids out on the street selling it. You got like when I was in Bali, you have children run up to you trying to sell you trinkets and stuff that you don't even want. But the bottom line is they're doing it. Try getting an American kid to do something like that. They just walk up to you and say, yeah, I'm hungry. It's like, well, what's that got to do with me? You need to sell something. You need to do something for work. You need to have a shovel. You need to shovel my driveway or something. It's like, I don't just hand you money. That's not how this works. But that's where we are. So what I'm saying is we have a situation where you've got a bunch of kids who either don't want to work, can't work, or refuse to work. And as far as I'm concerned, they're literally looking at their parents like their parents are walking lottery tickets. All of these kids understand the logic behind the word inheritance. They think that their parents are going to pass on and that they're just going to be left with all this wealth. They think they're going to be left with houses. They think they're going to be left with large amounts of money. Chances are, most of their parents ain't going to leave them with nothing but debt. Chances are. Chances are it'll be medical bills, tax bills that have gone unpaid, credit card bills that haven't been discharged, student loans that haven't been discharged, so forth and so on. So, to me, Yeah, there is definitely a great wealth transfer coming. I'm pretty sure most of it has to do with real estate. But bottom line is, you're dealing with people, for one thing, who don't want to wait for you to die. So when I see them read this thing that says healthcare proxy, chances are most of your kids are going to pull the plug on your ass. Chances are. Now, I know you don't want to believe it, but chances are, no, like if they say, yeah, well, there's a 25% chance your mom or your dad is not going to wake up out of this coma. You'd be like, yeah, pull that plug. And it's just that simple. Yeah, you got to be very careful who you put that healthcare proxy power. You got to be very careful who you give that to, because a lot of these people will pull your plug. You be in a coma, and you're dreaming about being with Jesus, and you're dancing with the fairies and all that stuff, and these kids will pull your damn plug. It's like just like that. It's over. It's like the beep beep beep, and it's it. And that's it. They will pull your goddamn plug, because as far as they're concerned, you're a walking lottery ticket. It's like, well, yeah, I don't really want her to suffer, and I really do need that $75,000 cash. So, you know what? Yeah, pull her plug. Beep, and that's it. So wealth trend. You got to be very careful. And then this whole thing about, what is it? Will planning? During COVID, I believe that there was how should I say, a surge in people who decided to do estate planning and wills and stuff like that. And I know, because even in my family, that happened. There were people in my family who decided that this was the best time in the world to go out and start doing estate planning. And all of a sudden, it was like, how should I say, it was like viral. It was like one of them did it, and then they start talking to somebody. Oh, you know what? I know a really good estate planner. You should go to see Tara over here in Brooklyn. And then another one goes and does it. And then that one spreads the word. And now Tara's got a bunch of people lined up trying to get her to write them a will. Oh, yeah, well, if anything happens to the house, it'll go to Kevin. And Kevin will be just fine with the house. And then I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, well, I know Kevin, and Kevin can't hold a fucking job. So when you're telling me that if anything happens to you and all your estate goes to Kevin, I don't think that's a good fucking idea, because I know Kevin, and Kevin barely can hold a job. So when it comes to, paying a mortgage, or paying taxes, or maintaining a property, I'm thinking about Kevin, and I'm just not feeling it. And when I say Kevin, obviously that's a made up name. But if you yourself think about the people in your family, and you think about the kids in your family who are right now reaching adulthood or in adulthood right now, Generation Zers, chances are you know a Kevin. Chances are you know a kid in your family who, if you gave them a lot of money, they would just fuck it all up, and it would disappear either up their nose or some other way. It would just be wasted. We all have Kevins. We have Kevins, and we've got Keishas. And either one of them will screw up all of that. If you handed them $100,000, they'd be eating out every day, crabs, lobsters, scrimps. They'd be eating out every day. Take out Uber Eats every goddamn day. Uber Eats is pulling up to their door, looking for a tip, passing off their burger and fries. I think we all know a Kevin, and we all know a Keisha who would totally screw that money up. I think we all know. I think if you really think about it, chances you could even. I'll tell you what. You could put their first name in the chat. You could just put their first name. Yeah, I know a Kevin. In my family, the Kevin's name is Keisha, or whatever. But you get my point. Well, I think we all know a Kevin. In fact, in some cases, you are the Kevin. Like if your parents passed out right now, and they left you their house and they left you money, you would blow it all. I'm gonna run out right now and buy me a Hellcat. Or I'm gonna go out right now, I'm gonna buy me a BMW carbon competition series or some shit. See, and that's the sad thing is, one thing I understand about Americans, everybody dreams about winning the lotto, and the scary thing is, no matter how much money you win, just about all of us have an idea about how we're going to spend that first couple of million. I'm gonna buy a bigger house with a pool. I'm gonna buy a Maybach. I'm gonna buy a Rolls Royce. Everybody knows exactly how they're gonna spend that first couple of million. The mere fact that that's true, it's like that should scare you right there. So any wealth that gets left over, it's gonna turn into negative, spend. It's just gonna turn into high spending. It's gonna turn into negative wealth very quickly. Let me try to finish this. It says, when problems arise with wealth transferring from one generation to the next, it's when communications have broken down or have not taken place, Pelzar said. People aren't educated on the value of trust and their benefits. Of course they're not. Christina Letchulop, a certified financial planner at Cap Trust, attributed this lack of action on estate planning to the expanding and complex investment universe, a shift in the definition of retirement, a changing understanding of careers, and the geopolitical climate. People tend to delay because of uncertainty. There's a lot of headlines. There's a lot of noise that can tell people not to take action when I think that they should. And while that's all a very real consideration to pay attention to, it's important to also get started. And when people hold on, they miss out on the opportunities. Lechalop emphasized the benefits of working with a professional to help understand finances and establish goals and priorities that help dictate investment decisions. Having a plan, even if it's something as simple as replacing my income when I turn 65, that is a great starting place, Lechalop said. From there, you can know how much do I need to save, what kind of growth rate do I need, how many years do I need to save. There's just some real simple things, and then you layer on as you go. It's important to start somewhere with the goals, Lechalop continued, and then when you do invest, invest with purpose. Know that you're investing for, choose those right vehicles, and understand those vehicles well. This kind of planning can help set people up for smoother transfers and help avoid passing down strife to other generations. First of all, America is currently $35 trillion in debt. And that debt clock, from what I heard, that debt clock increases, I believe it's $1 trillion like every 100 days. So that means that before this time next year, we'll probably be closer to 40 trillion if we're not already at 40 trillion. As far as I can tell, and this is just talking about the presidential election, honestly, at this point, I think we're so far in national debt that I don't think that Kamala Harris or Trump can do anything about it at this point. See, the problem is the Republicans' platform is promising tax cuts. They'll let the national debt rise, but their promise to you is that you're not going to be the one paying for it. As far as the left and the Democrats are concerned, they don't even talk about the national debt. They don't care about the national debt. They'll spend whatever they want to spend. And we'll just end up screwed by that spending later. So, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think that we're at a point where they can even promise tax cuts. And on top of that, I think it's more at a point where they need to start actually going into austerity. They need to start cutting these social service programs. I hear everybody, oh, you can't vote for Trump. He's going to cut Social Security. He's going to cut Medicare, Medicaid. He's going to cut Social Security. Me personally, I think that there's enough white people with AR-15s that are loaded to ensure that that doesn't actually happen. Considering that the $3.5 billion Secret Service got outgunned by a 20-year-old boy, I personally don't see any politician who doesn't want to see the end of their term come at a bullet. I'm pretty sure none of them are thinking about cutting Social Security. I'm pretty sure about that. If they do, they'll have to do it in an underhanded fashion. Like they'll either try to defund it somehow, which they pretty much can't because Social Security is a tax. Social Security, you pay half of it and your employer pays half of it. It's basically a 12.6% tax. It's like you pay, what is it, like 6.3%, and your employer pays 6.3%. I actually don't think that they can cut Social Security. I think they may have to actually raise the tax for Social Security. Only time will tell. But the bottom line is, I think we've really reached a point when you're talking about $1.5 trillion in credit card debt. When you're talking about $1.8 trillion in student loan debt, I just don't see digging out of this hole. I think you can go deeper into the hole, but I don't think you can actually dig out of this hole. Now, mind you, I'm the one American, the black, by the way, I'm black, the black 40-something-year-old American who can honestly say that I'm not deep buried into credit card debt. I've tried to make videos and tell people how to use their credit cards and tried to tell people how to get an 850 credit score. I've tried to show people how to get rewards points so that they can fly all over the world in business class and somehow write it off on their taxes. But nobody pays attention to my shit. They just pay attention to all of these scam artists and these fake gurus and these crypto people on freaking YouTube because YouTube throttles our channels for the most part. So they let the criminals get through and they let their voices be heard. So I'm just that black person that you don't hear about. I'm the Urkel. I'm the one who doesn't exist. I'm the one who's not driving around in an $80,000 electric Cadillac. I'm the one who doesn't have an $80,000 Jeep SRT parked outside. I'm the one who doesn't fly all over the world. You don't hear about me. No. The ones you will hear about are the gangsters, the gangster rappers, the gangbangers, and the people who, for the most part, probably won't live to see 30. So never mind me. YouTube has decided I'm not important. They'd rather emphasize people who say the N-word 700 times in a song. And unless I'm doing that, apparently nobody cares about me, which is fine. If that's what they want to do, that's fine. You know, I have black suits. I can attend your funeral. But bottom line is this. As far as wealth transfer goes, America, we're on the absolute wrong path. You've got an entire generation who doesn't want to work, who wants to work from home so that they can pretend to work when they're not really working until their employer finds out and then fires them. I don't see that being tenable. I don't see that being sustainable. I just don't. Now, you could say I'm wrong, but what am I going to do about it? Wealth transfer is mostly going to take place in real estate. As far as parents and grandparents leaving large inheritances in the form of cash, I don't see that happening. I really don't see that happening. Now, granted, there are some rich people who are very, very rich who die and they have a lot of money in the bank. Their kids rush to the bank to withdraw as much as they can as quickly as possible. Oh no, Nana died. Hold on, let me get my keys. And they get that and they get in their car, they drive right to the bank and they do the biggest withdrawal they can possibly do. And when the bank gives you a problem, oh, wait a minute, hold on, wait. Wait a minute. Are you the owner of this account? Well, don't worry about it. I've got the debit card number because I was taking care of Nana's account when I put Nana in the home. The bottom line is I think that the cash transfers, I don't think that's going to be a really big thing. I think, however, the capital gains is going to be huge. A lot of these old people bought their houses a long time ago. Like when you're talking about the silent generation, and you're talking about these baby boomers who are dying of cancer right now. You talk about these Generation Xers who are right now, 50, between 50 and 60. Most of their wealth is in their houses. I have seen over and over and over again old people die, leave their houses to their dumbass children, and their dumbass children can't take care of the house, can't maintain the house, don't have the money coming in to rebuild the house, don't have the money to take care of the taxes or the back taxes. If I really counted how many people I know, and I've known a lot of older people, if I've counted how many of them I know who've left their properties to their dumbass kids, and these are the people who are older than me, but not as financially savvy as me, when I really think about that, like I'd need a couple of hands to count the number, but it's more than 10. So you have these old people who bought their house less than $150,000 many years ago, especially here in New York. But they're dumbass kids who are barely working, single moms, what else? Doing drugs. I got one in my mind right now that I'm thinking of. Doing drugs, getting high. Well, as soon as they left their property to these people, they burned it all up. Like they just had to sell. They had no choice. And when you got to sell, you got BlackRock rating right there. And as soon as you sell, BlackRock is ready to buy. Oh yeah, we'll give you 500,000. We'll give you 800,000, whatever it is, just to get you up out of there. And as soon as you're up out of there, BlackRock comes in there and they turn that single family house into a multi-story dwelling or a multi-family house, a mother-daughter or whatever it is. Here in New York City, and I can think of so many instances of this. Even on my old block, you get these old people, they die, they leave their house to their dumbass kids, and they have no money coming in, they have no income, so what do? They sell. Next thing you know, that single family house that used to be a decent looking house on the block, the foreigners come in, they chop that house up, and they dormer it, and they make it a huge monstrosity. And now it's a 2-family or a 3-family or even a 4-family. And I know you'd say that, wait a minute, that's not legal. Yeah, it is. And the cops don't even care. So basically, you got people living in the basement, you got people living in the middle floor, you got a whole family living on the top floor. It's disgusting. And now you've got all these people, everybody got 1 or 2 cars. So now your block is filled with cars. The one thing I do appreciate about Long Island is that they absolutely refuse to let Democrats get any politics out on Long Island. Democrats run, Democrats lose. On Long Island, the Democrats would love to be able to change these single-family zoning laws so that they could take away these people's single-family houses. I don't think you pay attention to New York politics, but when you think about Zeldin versus Hochul, Hochul only won because New York City is filled with illegal immigrants. And that's the bottom line. New York City controls New York State's electoral votes. That's why it's impossible for somebody like Trump to win, because he's up against all these minorities in New York City. And that's just the truth. What I can say about Long Island is Long Island has just enough white people to ensure that the Democrats and the minorities in New York City have no control in Long Island. In Long Island, gun laws, oh shit, if I want to get a gun, I can go right to the gun. The gun store is what? Let me see. The gun store is about 5 miles away. And I can go there and I can have my Second Amendment rights. I can go in there and buy ammo. I can go in there and buy a shotgun. I go in there and buy a rifle, whatever I want. Meanwhile, as soon as you cross over to New York City, you're nothing but a sheep and you're unarmed. As soon as you cross over into the city. So the politics are completely different. The Democrats will continue to run and they will continue to lose because these people in Long Island, it's like they're not going for that bullshit. They're just not going for it. How this relates to housing, because I keep diverging. But the simple fact is, this relates to housing because these people have single family housing. I'm one of them. And they will never allow minorities or Democrats from New York City to come out here and fuck their properties up. And it's just that simple. That's how I'm saying it. Shit, I should run for office. But anyway, that's what it comes down to. I don't care who hears the sound of my voice. That's the God's honest truth. And if I'm lying, may I be struck by lightning. That's the truth. That's what's going through these people's minds. So when it comes to intergenerational wealth, a lot of these people's wealth gets passed down through real estate, not cash in the bank. It's usually real estate. Now, we have a very interesting situation that's coming up as they talk about in this article. Now, they weren't very specific, but I would say that a lot of this intergenerational wealth is going to be passed down mostly as real estate. But because a lot of these people couldn't afford to buy houses, a lot of this intergenerational wealth may also end up being passed down as cash transfers. The only problem that I see is a lot of these people owe huge debts. A lot of these people owe student loans. A lot of these people own credit card bills. And the credit card bills aren't that big, but the student loans can be ginormous. What other debts would these people have? Some of these people, owe back child support and stuff like that. But the scary thing is a lot of these people, they're going to get this money and this money is going to burn right through their pockets. They're going to get this money. Oh yeah, I got to go out and buy a Gucci bag. I got to go buy Prada shoes. I got to go buy a Louis Vuitton handbag. This money is going to burn right through most of these people's pockets. These people are not disciplined savers. It's going to burn right through their pockets. And that's just the reality. So when they say that you got trillions of dollars of wealth about to be passed down, I can't tell you the number of people I've seen burn up their money in casinos. I can't tell you the number of people I've seen absolutely just piss away money to the point where, you just have to stand back in awe. And you're like, how can you afford that? How can you go on so many cruises? How can you, what are you doing? It's and they, you can't take it with you, and I'm living for today and all that bullshit. And we're like, okay, well, I guess it's your money to waste. But see, their kids, however, their kids are sitting back and watching that shit, and their kids are looking at them like they're walking lottery tickets. That's why every now and then you hear about some grandma or some ma getting killed for her New York City apartment. Usually it's her two sons, one of her sons sets up, or you hear about somebody literally getting stabbed in the back for their apartment or for their house. You hear about these daughters stabbing their own fathers in the back. You hear about it. You hear about it all the time. It's always, sometimes I try to post these things in the community chat, but when people see this, I don't know if they're making the connection that I'm making. I don't know if they're seeing the whole picture and saying, wait a minute, matricide and patricide are going up. If you were to take a look, here's a question. Do they even keep statistics in America? Because you never hear those statistics. You hear about suicide rates, you hear about homicide rates. But do you ever hear about patricide rates and matricide rates? Do you ever hear about those? Because I don't usually see those. I don't know. Nobody publishes that. I have a theory that matricide and patricide have been increasing over the last 10 years. Now, I'd have to dig really deep to find the demographics because I've never seen any studies done on that. But I have that theory. And I personally believe that those rates are going to go even higher. Part of it's going to be, I want you to think about it. You're a 30-year-old male or female, and you're still living in the house with your parents. You have no husband, you have no wife, but you're living in daddy. No, okay, you know what? I'm thinking of somebody specific. You're a 45-year-old childless cat lady like J.D. Vance calls you, right? And you're living in daddy's attic. Daddy's got a house. Daddy and mommy are elderly at this point. You're a 45-year-old childless cat, and you have a cat. Childless cat lady living in your daddy's house, your daddy's attic. See, the girls live in daddy's attic. The boys live in mommy's basement. That's how it works. The boys never live in the attic. Even when you think back to those Disney movies, you remember, what was it? Cinderella. You remember Cinderella? Cinderella was living where? She was living in the attic. Now, her father died. The stepmama had this bitch locked up in the freaking attic. As far as I know, it was like one of those simple key locks. The stepma had her locked up in the attic, and her own daughters didn't live that high up in the house. But the stepmama had her locked up all the way in the attic. When the prince came looking to figure out whose shoe that was, it was like, I think the mice had to rescue her out of the attic, if I'm not mistaken. It was the mice. Right. But the bottom line is, you're in daddy's attic, and you got a cat. So you're a childless cat lady. You're 45 years old, not married, no children. You have a cat, and you live in a daddy's attic. I want you to just think about that shit for a second. Now, some of these younger females, they can't take that. They can't take it. You know why? Because they want to party, they want to have fun, they want to flex on Instagram and all that shit. But here's the problem, though. It's your mama's house, it's your daddy's house. Now, you're showing them that they're never going to be able to afford anything. You're showing them that the average starter house is $600,000 here in New York City. If you look at Zillow, and you look in any of our worst zip codes, if you look in the worst zip code, a starter house is over $500,000. If you look in the worst crackhead, crack-ridden, drugs on the street, shootings every day neighborhoods, you will notice that the average house starts somewhere around like $600,000. Maybe even more. Depends upon where you're looking. But you're literally telling these kids, yeah, you know what? You're never going to be able to buy a house. BlackRock is going to buy that house before you even have a chance to buy that house. You are going to be a permanent renter. So the first thing they're like, oh, well, okay, if I'm going to be a permanent renter, how much is rent? Then you show them an apartment in Brooklyn, a basement apartment in Brooklyn, maybe $3,000 a month. Or you show them an apartment in Queens, might be $2,000 a month, and they're probably going to have to share it with somebody. Or you show them that, you won't be able to buy a house, but you might be able to get this Airbnb for about, $2,500 a month. They ain't going to be too happy about that. In fact, they're probably going to reach for a weapon. And these parents, they've spoiled these kids. They've spoiled these little rotten, spoiled brat bastards. They've spoiled them so much. See, millennials, I believe, most millennials were brought up with corporal punishment. I believe most millennials were brought up with a sense of consequence. Not these Generation Z kids. These kids are not brought up the same way. And Generation Alpha is even worse. Like, have you ever sat back and watched these parents try to deal with their kids in these stores? And their kids go off on a freaking handle, and their parents have no idea what to do with them. Because some of them are afraid, if I lay hands on them, the government's going to come get me. It's like, yeah, I'm going to get locked up. Or the kids will tell their parents, like, yeah, Mommy, I found out that if you touch me, I can call 911. Or I can call 311. And they tell you, like, wait a minute, you can't do that. It's like, well, you better not. And they'd be like, yeah, well, you better not touch me. And these parents are scared shitless of their own kids. It's a goddamn shit. I ain't never seen nothing like it. Parents have to bargain with their freaking kids for them to behave. Oh, well, Timmy, if you be good, I'll buy you a game for Nintendo Switch. When I grew up, it was, Timmy, if you don't be good, I'm going to whip your fucking ass right here in this store in front of everybody. oh, Timmy, if you be good, I'll buy you some Pokemon cards or whatever they're doing now. Or I'll buy you, what is it, Overwatch for freaking PlayStation or something. I don't know what they play now. Or what is it? They still playing that game, Fortnite? Yeah. I'll buy you that new DLC pack for Fortnite that has the Marvel X-Men in it. In the old days, it was, listen, I'm going to whip your ass, and if you start crying, I'm going to give you something more to cry about. That's how it used to be. Well, bottom line is, now you're telling all these spoiled brat, entitled kids, it's like, okay, well, you're never going to be able to afford an apartment, and you're never going to be able to afford a house. The only ones of you who will be able to afford anything are the ones who happen to be, how should I say, talented, pretty enough, or skilled enough to somehow make money on the internet. Most of these kids want to be YouTubers now. Like it used to be, oh yeah, I want to be a basketball player. Kids are too lazy to be basketball players. Basketball playing at this point, football playing, basketball playing, that shit is a lot of work. You got to train. You've got to exercise and train a lot. These kids are too lazy for that. Oh yeah, I want to be a rapper. Kids are too dumb. they can't even write good raps anymore. Like that mumble rap bullshit only gets you but so far. You know what? And what's sad is if you do manage to get a deal, you probably are going to end up in debt because what'll happen is they'll give you advances. You'll buy all his jewelry and Lamborghinis and all that shit. You'll buy it all on credit. And then you are a slave to that recording agency for like for the rest of your life, for the most part, up until you file bankruptcy. So they can't even do that anymore. Nobody's buying your music. Like, for instance, I don't buy music. I go right on FrostWire. I download that shit. If it's not FrostWire, I'll be on YouTube and I'll download songs right off of YouTube. And I'll be, listen, I ain't paying for no goddamn album. You must be out of your mind. So, oh, well, I'll just go on tour. I'm not coming to your concert. I've seen way too many mass shootings at concerts. I'm not coming. I'm not coming and I'm not paying to see you. So it's just that simple. Oh, well, I'll just put my mixtape in children's Happy Meals at McDonald's. No, I'm not. I feel bad, actually. I feel kind of embarrassed because a couple of people have given me mixtapes. Not only don't I have the CD player in my cars to actually play them, but like in one of my book bags, there's a mixtape sitting there that I've never touched in 4 years because like I can't be bothered to have to use a CD player. Everything's digital now. It's like I don't have, like CD player. What is this? It's like I do. You know what? If I had to find a DVD player right now, it would be my PlayStation 3. Like I don't even have PlayStation 4 or 5 because I pretty much gave up on those consoles. But I have a PlayStation 3, and that's like the only DVD player I actually have. Because my computer is all digital. Everything's digital now. It's like, and when I say digital, I mean it's all about broadband downloads, hard drives, and stuff like that. It's not about like CDs and DVDs. So I'm not listening to your mixtape, okay? You think it's fire, I don't. I'm sorry. So what is left for these kids? What's left? You're giving all the money to Israel and Ukraine. Meanwhile, I go over to Singapore and I go over to Bali. They're doing better than we are. You go to their airports, they're beautiful. You go to their streets, they're spotless or clean. They're very clean. It's like their kids work. Their adults work, their kids work. It's just terrifying, man. I don't know. So the bottom line is, if you're a parent, watch your back. If you're a parent with a house, watch your back. Before you give your kids power of attorney and healthcare proxy and all that stuff, make sure your kids can actually manage themselves. Make sure your kids are not deep in debt. Make sure your kids have their own property that they're managing properly. Make sure your kids, how should I say, have stability. Because a lot of your kids don't have stability. I swear to God, you give them a healthcare proxy over you, they're going to pull your freaking plug out. They're going to pull your plug because as far as they're concerned, you're nothing more than a walking lottery ticket. As soon as you go, they're going to get... You have no idea. Like, when I say this stuff, you think I'm joking. I'm not... I would like... I would like not to be joking. And the problem is you think I'm joking. I'm really not. I'm really not. In my mind right now, I have their faces in my mind of young people who I don't trust at all because I know that they secretly plotting on their own goddamn parents. Oh yeah, as soon as they die, I'm gonna get the house. I'm gonna move my boyfriend in the house as soon as he's gone. No, man. I got a 45 loaded because there's certain people who, like, I don't trust them. I don't trust the people they deal with. And if I was ever in a situation where, how should I say, where I had to butt heads with them or somebody else, that like one of they boys off the street or some shit, I'm gonna have to shoot somebody. I'm sorry. And I won't hesitate. But the bottom line is you gotta be careful. You can't trust, you'd be surprised, you can't trust your own family no more. That's how bad it is. You've got family members who will call gang members to come fight you. You know I ain't lying about this. You know I can't make this shit up. You've got situations where you gotta have your head on a swivel because there's people out there who want what you got and will try to take it who will rob your ass. And they will put a knife in your back and take what you got. That's how bad it's getting. It's what do they call it? Scarcity? Yeah, that's where you are. That's exactly where you are. You know I ain't lying. And while I'm saying this, I'm pretty sure I'm conjuring images in your mind of somebody who you know you can't trust. It's that freaking bad. And it's only gonna get worse. When you're talking about, what is it, shelter? That's like the number one thing that all humans need. But now you're talking about a situation where they can't get the shelter that they want or that they need. But you have it, and they'll take it from you. They'll literally take it from you. And forget the morality. Forget morals and morality. Most of these kids don't go to church. How many of them even know all 10 commandments? I have to wonder. You know, they were talking about, oh yeah, we should put the 10 commandments in school. I think that's a great idea, if for nothing more than for the literary value. Or, if you want to teach literacy, you really should be using the Bible. Oh no, we don't want religion in school. No, I didn't say religion in school. Most of our English language is based in the Bible. You might want to actually impart some of this on this next generation because they ain't got no goddamn morals. They don't have them. They don't. So, like, you wonder why is there like a rise in sociopaths? Well, it's pretty much partially because they have no morals. I'm sorry. That's just what it is. And you could say I'm wrong. Okay, fine. You could disagree. Maybe you could just say, oh, yeah, this is my opinion and everything. But the news don't lie. The news keeps pumping these stories out, and these stories are happening. So what am I left to believe? It is what it is. But, yeah, the bottom line is there's a huge wealth transfer coming. Even I'm going to be part of it. My parents are going to go. And when they do, I'll be left with decisions about what to do with their estate. Now, me personally, I don't waste shit and I don't squander shit. As far as I'm concerned, the Bible said that when your parents leave you land and a farm, you're supposed to grow that land and a farm. What does that look like for me? Well, if I have to rent out their properties and let's say when I'm ready to retire, let's say I want to move to, I don't know, Thailand, Philippines, or someplace like that. It's like I'd rent out their properties and I'd be gone. It's just that simple. But, I know people, even family members, where you've got a bunch of family members who end up having to sell a property left to them by a patriarch or even a matriarch. And it's like, wait a minute. These people worked all of their lives to buy that house or to put their money in that house, only to leave it to their dumbass kids so that they could fuck it all up. Now, when I think about intergenerational wealth and I think about the lack thereof in the Black community, I'm left thinking to myself, I'm like, wait a minute. You people aren't having children. You're not having children in wedlock. A lot of the children that you would have been having, you're aborting. You don't own property. And even if you did own property, you can't even be certain that you can leave it in a lineage because you're not married to a certain person. Or like there's no clear like lineage of succession. Like there's no way to pass this wealth down. Like for instance, there's a lot of single men and there's a lot of single women. And you have accumulated a lot of wealth because you didn't have a family to spend it on. So if you die right now, where does that money go? The government's going to consume it. It's like if you have no heirs, government's going to consume that. You think the government's going to be beating down the doors of your family members searching for somebody to give that money to? If you have money, because a lot of you got nothing but debt. Let's just be fair. But that's it. It just gets to me. I'm like, wait a minute. It's like, how are you supposed to pass down intergenerational wealth and you're not creating generations? It's like, what's going on? So, and the ones of you who do have some wealth, you're literally running the risk of your kids squandering all of it. I've seen enough money get squandered. Like I think back to one of my neighbors, in fact, an old man, reverse mortgage on his house. He took out so he could buy, in his twilight, he buys, new washer, dryer, appliances, and everything. He goes out and buys like one of them Black Friday sales. It's like all his appliances, gets his house all fixed up, leaves it behind to his dumbass kids, only so that they can not be able to afford it, end up losing the house, and then have some foreigners come in and turn that shit into a 2-family house. And now it looks like a disaster. It ruined the character of the block. Like because when the foreigners come in, they don't give a shit about the material quality. They don't care. They'll put anything there. If they can, they'll get that stucco, and they'll get that horrible dry vid and all that. They'll get that shit that looks like mud. It looks like a hornet shit it out and pasted it over. They don't care. And they'll ruin the character of your block. They don't care. And I'm like, man, if only his dumbass kids had kept that house, it's like this would have never happened. But they couldn't keep the house because they didn't have jobs or they didn't have careers that paid them enough to keep the house. It's shocking. It's shocking. It's just. But, Grant, in fairness, in time, all of this is going right back into the dust. In time, the sun's going to burn out. Nothing will matter at that point. The earth will just freeze over and all life on it will be erased, But I'm just saying, it's like, even in the short time, it's like, yo, what are you doing? It's just like, what? But, these are those precautionary, like, as far as I'm concerned, this article is way too short. It's like, yeah, they tell you a little bit about being woefully unprepared, but I don't think you understand how deep that woefully unpreparedness goes. I really don't think you do. I really don't think you do. And these guys, they come on there because mostly they're estate planners and they're just looking for business and everything. But my question to these estate planners is, what do a bunch of parents do if they want to plan their estate and what they're going to leave their kids, but they can't trust their kids? Like, they can't trust their kids not to squander their resources, like just to spend it all up. Like, how do you leave behind an estate to children who you can't even trust to make the tax payments on the house? Like that's where it is. It's like you're dealing with incompetence. Now, I understand, like, most people would say, you know what, leave it in a trust, right? Maybe you could give it to the bank, and the bank will disperse it as an allowance. That might be the answer. Might be, but with these banks failing left and right, how can you even be certain that that'll happen? Because let's say you left a trust to Washington Mutual, and then Washington Mutual goes under and leaves and that money gets transferred, I don't know, to Wells Fargo or something, but Wells Fargo doesn't have the same trust. What happens then? It's like I don't even know. That's an answer to that's a question I don't know. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Bottom line is, all you can really hope for is to have a family, to have children, and to have like a direct line of intergenerational wealth transfer. That's all you can really hope for. But more importantly, you have to have children that are financially savvy, which means that you can't trust them until they demonstrate that they can do for themselves, or that they can earn and save and spend wisely. Like, you can't trust them until they prove that they can do for themselves. But if they're living at home with you past like the age of like 30, chances are that ain't like happening. Not unless it's you living with them. Like, if you're old and, you're living with them and they're taking care of you, because otherwise they put your ass into a home, and, you end up like Sarah Connor, and you got the guy who's supposed to be like, washing you up and cleaning you. He's up there licking your face and stuff. If that's the case, that's different. But chances are that's not the case. Chances are they're living with you. Because I told you the story about the eagles. It's like the eagles make a soft nest for their hatchlings, and they feed them and everything. But eventually the eagles look at each other as the hatchling starts to grow and he gets bigger, and they're like, wait a minute, it's time for you to get out of here. You got to go be an eagle. So what do the eagles do? They stop feeding them. They stop bringing food to the nest. And then they start removing all of the soft portions of the nest, like all the soft furs and all the soft grass and all that stuff. They start pulling that stuff out so that they leave the nest with thorns, and they're like, nah, it's time for you to get the fuck up out of here. And then you have to get out. Sometimes the eagles, they push you out of the nest and be like, nah, it's time for you to go fly, and it's time for you to go be an eagle, because you ain't staying up in here. And that's how the eagles actually do. Because if they don't do that, the eagles will lay right up in there, and they'll be playing their PlayStation 5, and they'll be watching sitcoms. And they'll be sitting right up in there eating. As soon as you bring the food home, they eating. When you go out to Costco, they'll be like, oh, yeah, get me some cookies. It's like they'll lay up in there and not do anything. And if you don't push them out that nest, they never going to learn to be eagles. They got to go out there and they got to get their own mice. They got to go out there and they got to hunt their own cats and deer and stuff. But how are they ever going to learn? They're not going to learn. So the bottom line is, you can't leave behind any wealth until you absolutely know that they know how to do for themselves. And that's where I'm going to stop. I think I've ranted long enough. What is it, 10:21? Yeah, I think I ranted long enough. So you could, this is a very short story, but you can put your questions, comments, and criticisms in the comment section. There you go.